No. Okay, so welcome back. One thing I forgot to cover earlier about Ruby, and it's super important, and I'm so sorry, is string interpolation. So imagine you basically want to, you have a variable called Michael, variable name, and then name stands for Michael, and you want to basically concatenate two strings using like the string and then the variable and then the string. And then the way that happens in Ruby, we can see here, is basically like this. Right, so I commented out everything. And the way Ruby does it, right, is to have a pound, a curly brace, and then you have some Ruby code inside here that gets variated. Right, so in this case, this shell with my name is Michael. And this leads me to the other question which I totally forgot about single and double quotes. This only works with double quotes. So if you want to do this string interpolation, you have to use double quotes. Everywhere else you can decide whatever quotes you want to use. Does this make sense? So this is kind of like, if you come from JavaScript, we basically will be using the plus symbol. I think it works here too, but Ruby has a way more elegant means of doing it. This is kind of like a format string, if you will. Okay? Just let's see that this works. Okay, so this works. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I'm going to move on, as promised, to Sinatra right now. And I want all of you to create a new file in the same folder. And I want you to call it main.rb. And this is going to be our main file for Sinatra, the entry point into our application. All right. So create this file, save it, and yeah, let's write our hello world application for Sinatra. Okay, so right at the top, right, we need to tell Ruby that we want to use Sinatra, the library, the code. So what we do is we type require space Sinatra. And below, we're going to type get space a slash in quotes do. Oops. And inside here, we're just going to do hello world. So basically, we tell Ruby that we want to use Sinatra, and Sinatra has a get method, and it understands this, and then we basically want to print hello world. And so now if you go back to the shell and run Ruby space main.rb, and you hit enter, you should see that Sinatra has taken the stage on 4, 5, 6, 7. And you might see something different, but mainly it should be the same information there. And what this basically means is that Sinatra has started, right? And we can go to our browser to verify this. So open Chrome, open up Chrome, and point your browser to localhost 4567. So you go to this address. Right, this part is actually like super important because if you can't get this, it means that the installations didn't work. and now be a really good time to fix that. Can you all see? Is it working? It's not working. Okay. Okay, so for some of you, right, you might be getting this strange error, and I apologize. I should have known. And the way you can fix that, right, is, and if you don't have this error, don't do this. It's just like some configurations that differs from installation to installation, and I don't want to go into it. If you have the error, right, you do an additional require at the top, and you require Ruby gems. And then you should not be getting that load error. You might get. Okay, so can everyone fire up Sinatra? Okay? Okay. Yeah, this is like critical. If you can't do this, you can't do anything else. All your load errors are gone. BT, all your load errors are gone. Okay? Okay. Right, so point your browser to 4567, right? And then you should see an extremely underwhelming hello world, which is good. Like, and then if we pause for a second, right, to think about what's happening, it is fairly obvious, right? Sinatra basically knows that to print hello world when you navigate to this URL, and we can see that by going back to our file and adding another route. And so I'm going to copy this and paste a second one here. Paste it below, and then I'm going to call this another, and instead of hello world, I'm going to do hello stranger. And now if you navigate back to your browser, right, it shouldn't work. Because every time you change your Ruby code, you need to restart Sinatra. Right? Every time you make a change to a .rb file, you have to go back and restart Sinatra in your shell. And so let's do that. Let's go back to Sinatra. Press Ctrl+C to terminate the process, and rerun the file. Go back to your browser, and you hit refresh. You should see hello stranger under / another, and under without anything, it should be hello world. All right. Okay, so this is fairly interesting. Let's do a bit more. Let's add a link from the first page to the second page. And we all know HTML, right? So I'm just going to type some HTML here. I'm going to add href another, right? Right. So I basically have a link that links to the second page. So save that. Go back to the shell, kill Sinatra, restart Sinatra, refresh the page, and you should see a link. And if you click on the link, you go to the other page. Alright, if I'm going too fast, do stop me. I have a tendency to do that. If not, that's fine. Can everyone get this? Okay, so this is what I was saying earlier, right, about routes. As you can see, we have defined 2 routes here. These are your controllers, they decide what to do, and in this case, we just decided that, okay, they should just spit out strings. And then that's what's happening. And earlier on when I mentioned that we get a lot of this for free, we basically got everything for free, right? We're just writing like a few lines of code and we have basically 2 pages now. Okay, so I'm going to sidetrack a little. It's relevant, trust me. So I'm going to go to GitHub. I'm going to my profile page. And what's interesting about this, right, is that if you look at the URL, it looks like this. So you have the domain, and then you have the username. And this kind of pretty, right? But I'm pretty sure GitHub doesn't declare a single route for each user. That will just not work. Right, and Sinatra gave us a very elegant way of doing this. And so if we go back to our file and declare another route, let's do get slash maybe name slash colon name. So we basically have a symbol here. So we do and within this we can access the name symbol from the params hash. Right, and we learned string interpolation earlier on, and I'm going to use it here. Your name is. Does this make sense? The code should kind of make sense to you, right? You declare this nice route here, and because of the colon, Sinatra knows that it's a symbol, and you can access it within the params hash. And through this way, you can see how like perhaps GitHub does it. Right? They find a username, they look up their database for that username, and then they display all the relevant information. But we'll get to that. Okay, so if you restart Sinatra, save the file, restart Sinatra, and refresh your browser, and then let's go to my name, and if you just change the URL, you can get, you notice that it actually works. You generate a different page each time, right? So this is kind of cool. This is basically like, if you've done any web development before, prior to Sinatra, you realize that it takes a lot of work to just like get these few lines of code working, just to get the name, the different names working. And so this is pretty interesting. So at this point in time, is anyone lost? This is all the Sinatra for now I'm going to cover. I'm going to touch on something else very soon. Oh, okay. Okay, great. So this is not particularly scalable, right? We can't expect to paste our HTML files into this page. That's just not going to work. Because like if you have a few pages, it gets out of hand very, very fast. And we tend to like to separate our controllers from our templates and our models. And Sinatra gives us a very nice way of doing that. So I want you to go back to your desktop, open the folder, and inside the folder, I want you to create a new folder. And I want you to call this folder views. And naturally, you can guess that this folder is going to house our views. And Sinatra knows this. You can change it to something else if you want, but this is the default. I'm not going to go through how you can change it. It is fairly simple from the documentation, but we're just going to stick with this because it makes sense anyway. So create a folder named views. Go back to Sublime Text and create a new file inside of views and name it index.haml. This is not a typo. It's not .html. It's actually .haml. I'm going to cover that immediately after this. So save a file name index.haml. Okay. Great. Okay, so you might be wondering, or you must be wondering what Haml is, right? If you haven't seen it before. And I know I said that the prerequisite for this workshop is HTML, but trust me, without the knowledge of HTML, you can't write Haml. And once you know Haml, you never ever want to write HTML again, unless you are maybe conducting a workshop like me. And so, essentially, right, if we take a step back from all this, and we look at pages in general, let's say like you have a blog, and then you have a bunch of HTML, and what really is happening, right, is that you have a bunch of HTML code, and actually every single blog post you are showing to the user is the same old HTML with several things different. The contents of a few particular tags are different. And essentially that's what most sites are actually, right? Like everyone's Facebook profile page is the same apart from the information it shows. So the HTML is all the same. It all looks the same, it's just the information inside a few of the tags are different. And that's essentially why we want to use templates. And consequently, right, we don't want HTML to get in the way of writing these templates, particularly because it's very verbose, and hence Haml. And there are many other flavors of markup languages like Haml. For your different languages like Python or JavaScript, you have your own popular ones. For Ruby, it's Haml, and it actually looks like this. So this is the simplest example I can find of HTML versus Haml. So you don't need a closing tag. You just have a % with the tag you want, and then a space followed by whatever you want to go into the tag. And that Haml basically compiles it to the tag of the HTML above, you see. Okay. So Haml also gives us a few more interesting things, which is why we actually like to use it, or you'll find that it's way better. So for instance, if we have a variable name heading, and this variable points refers to the string Michael's blog, doing the tag with an equal sign followed by the variable name will, yeah, it's obvious what it does, right? It will create a h1 tag with Michael's blog inside. Alternatively, you can use the Ruby style string interpolation to get a h1 tag with this is Michael's blog very nicely. To do this with HTML will be clunky. You have to like have all of that and then interpolate the strings. Yeah, we generally don't want that. And then for attributes, the way we do it is we pass a hash into the tag like this. And you see symbols here again. So the keys are symbols of whatever attributes you want to set, and then you just pass it in. If you know HTML, this should be super simple or super obvious what's happening. Okay, a few more rules. For IDs and classes, because they are so common, we don't want to write a hash every time. we don't want to pass in a Ruby hash. Instead, we use a pound symbol and a dot like CSS selectors to indicate the class and IDs. So this is like super convenient, right? H1 pound main becomes H1 with the ID of main, and then inside we have my block. Yeah, and you can see that very quickly, Hammer emphasizes your content a lot more, and it makes it a lot easier to read. And the last thing, of course, is because we use diffs so often in our code, Hammer just decides that if you don't specify what tag, I'm just going to give you a div. So, for instance, like if I just do dot item, it will just create a div with a class of item for me. Yeah, and that eliminates a lot more of the typing you have to do. Okay, so finally, there's some trade-off, right, involved when writing Hammer, and the trade-off is indentation. So the way Hammer knows that you want to close a tag or that a tag is nested within another tag is by indentation. So you can see that head and body is indented inside HTML, container is inside body, the p tag hello world is inside container, and this indentation has to be enforced. If it's not indented properly, Hammer will complain, and then it won't render the correct HTML, it won't render anything at all. There will be an error, right? Yeah, but as you can see on the slide, it's very obvious that writing Hammer kind of lets you write less code, and it makes what you're trying to write more obvious. Like if you look at this, it's obvious that you're writing hello world, whereas HTML kind of clutters up everything. Okay, so I'll come to that later. So now we have our Hammer file, right? Go back to Sublime Text, and let's write some Hammer. So inside the Hammer file, I want you to write, we're going to write a h1 tag, space, hello world, save it, and I want you to go back to main.rb. So go back to main.rb, right? And then we need to tell Sinatra to use Hammer. And the way we do it is right at the top. We need to require Hammer. Okay, so sidetrack. So to get this screen, right, you do layout 2 columns. Yeah, if you're on a Mac, you just press Command and Option together, and then press the number of splits you want. Okay. Besides the point. So we require Hammer at the top, and this is basically, if you remember installing the gems earlier, Hammer was one of them. And basically the Hammer library can read your Hammer file and then compile it to HTML. And so let's change the main route. Let's get rid of this. Yeah. And instead, we want to do Hammer :index. And what this does is basically you're saying, Hammer, take this symbol called index. And as we've seen earlier, index is a way to, symbols are a way to pass strings when we don't really need a string. So we tell Hammer we want to render index, and Sinatra knows, or rather Hammer and Sinatra kind of works together. They know that I should look for this index.hammer inside views. Right, so if you put your file anywhere else, you probably can't find it. You have to put it inside views, and Hammer will look for index.hammer inside the file. And very quickly, if you go back to your shell and restart Sinatra, and go back to your browser and navigate to that route, you'll see hello world. And this time it's not plain text anymore, it's a h1 tag. All right. You don't get it?
Yeah, I don't get it.
Okay, so this part is also another like barrier. If you can't get Hammer to work, this will be a really good time to resolve it because moving forward we're going to rely a lot on Hammer. And very quickly, right? You notice if you change your Hammer file, you don't have to restart Sinatra because it's not. It's kind of like as I said earlier, you only have to restart Sinatra if you change a .rb file. And this is what happens last I checked. If you don't restart your Sinatra, the templates get re-rendered anyway, which is kind of nice when you're developing. Okay. All right. So now we can actually separate our views from our controller, right? We can separate the logic of what URLs, what to do for each URL, and what to show for each page into different files and different places. And so let's do that. So generally, you never want to do something like this. This is just like for example. And so let's point Hammer to a different page, maybe another. And of course, if you've been following along, right now we have to go and create a file inside views called another.hammer. Right beside the index.hammer file.
Do you have to be explicit for the views?
Explicit.
So can you say for this particular round, always look for a view what's happened? So if you had, is there some sort of hook where you can say if you have /Michael as a round, always look for views Michael?
As in, so you want to map your URLs to the round name. I think you can write code to do that. I think there's nothing in Sinatra that says that you also do that. Yes. But you can definitely write code. You can look through a route, look through an array of routes and generate it automatically. Of course, that's outside the scope of today. I'll be happy to show it to you later. Okay, so we have another.hammer, and let's write some stuff inside. So we have h1, hello stranger. And now since we changed the Ruby file, we have to restart Sinatra. So kill it, restart main.rb, go back to the page and navigate to another, and you'll see hello stranger. Alright, so at this point actually we kind of have enough, we kind of know enough to generate static sites with Sinatra, slightly dynamic static sites. We can have multiple pages written in Hammer, we get Sinatra to serve them using our pretty URLs, right? No more .html at the end if you notice. And it looks totally legit, right? It looks like we know what we're doing. And it's kind of cool. Okay? Okay, so I want you to go back to index.hammer. And if you realize we are actually not serving standard HTML. Like, we all know a HTML page needs to have a HTML tag, a head tag, a body tag. And we are not doing that, we're just serving the h1 tag. So let's do that. And so right at the top, I want you to put 3 exclamation marks. And that basically stands for a doc type. In all HTML files, you have a doc type. 3 exclamation marks stands for the doc type for HTML5. It is in the Hammer docs. It's pretty straightforward. And then after that, we want to have the HTML tag. We indent like 1. We have the head tag. We have the body tag. inside the head we have the title, and let's call it my blog. Oh wait, I can call it my course. Inside the body, we can put okay, and then now we have nice HTML, a proper HTML page that can pass validation. And then if you refresh the page, you basically see the same thing, just that now it's standard HTML. Okay. Okay, great. So, I know what you're thinking right now. You are thinking that we're going to copy this code, right? This Hammer code and paste it inside another, so that we get a standard page there too. And then every time we want to create a new file, we have to copy this same skeleton for HTML and paste it everywhere. And that's exactly what we are not going to do, because that's not a good idea, right? And we are all lazy. We want this skeleton to sit somewhere and then have every page use it, and then change it as they like. And so what I want you to do is to create a new file inside views called layout.haml. Okay, so save that. And now I want you to copy index.haml and paste it inside layout.haml. Right, and instead of this inside layout.haml, instead of the h1 tag, I want you to write container. We want a div with ID container. And the equal sign, which is basically we want to put something inside the container, right? And space yield. Alright, and then go back to index.haml, and we can remove everything and leave it like the original page. Just the h1 tag and the p tag, or whatever you have there. Alright. So now we're going to restart Sinatra. Refresh the page. And really nothing should change, right? The difference though is that right now, if you go to another, we have standard HTML for the another route. And the way I can show that to you is under layout, let's say every single page on my site, I want to have the same header, which is kind of common. Right, and I want the same footer for every single page as well. And so I'm going to add the normal footer 2013 Michael. Under header, I'm going to have a h1 saying Michael's blog. So this is layout.haml. And if really another .haml and index.haml were sharing this same layout, if you refresh Sinatra, you will actually see that everything inside the two Haml files gets shoved into container. And that's pretty neat, right? Like now we can change the title of our site throughout all pages at one go. Right, my bad. Okay, and then if you refresh the page, you can see that there's a title. If I go to another, there is the header and the footer as well. And this quickly becomes very powerful, right? I can put a style sheet in my layout, and then every single page will be styled the same, without needing me to copy and paste it everywhere and change it when I want to. Okay, so this is great.
Sorry. So how does this work? You just name the file layout and then it
Yes.
automatically understand that that's the
Yeah.
layout.
So I actually forgot to mention this. A lot of things that we see today, they are basically defaults. Like why we go to localhost :4567 instead of something else. The people writing Sinatra just decided that that is a nice number. Why layouts? Because it kind of makes sense. We can always change it.
Okay, so as long as you name the file layout,
Yes.
then it's understand
Yes.
that that's the layout.
So Sinatra has like a bunch of defaults, which they call smart defaults. And they generally make sense, right? Views folder contain the views. Layout file inside the views folder is used as the layout for everything. You can definitely change everything, every single part of this. The views folder can be named something else. The layout file can be named something else. But that's going to get complicated really fast, and you can read the documentation and see how to change it yourself. It is not too hard. Yeah. Okay, so the main thing actually I'm trying to drive home right now, right, is this. What's really happening is we have a hammer file and we have a layout, and what's really happening is when you call yield, everything in the hammer file gets shoved inside and replaces yield. Okay? And this is quite neat, right? Like this kind of, like layouts are neat. All right, everyone got that? Okay, so before we take another short break, I'm going to cover something that I think will lead up to the next section very nicely, and it's really exciting. I want you to under the first route, type this. Oh wait, sorry. My bad. Let's use the last route since the last route kind of has this for free. Let's assign params name, which we all know will be the name over there, to a variable at name. I'll explain why this is in a second. And inside, let's just do hammer name. All right. And so if I were to explain this, right, basically we are naming, we are naming this variable name, and the @ sign basically denotes an instance variable. And if you don't understand that, right, it doesn't matter, not very important. The @ sign basically says that, okay, this is an instance variable. What it really means is that, okay, Hammer can access this as well. That's all that matters here. And so now if we create a new file and call it name inside views, and we do the same thing, right? We do h1. My name is you can kind of guess what's going to happen, right? And if you refresh Sinatra, restart Sinatra, and you navigate to that route, yeah, you can see that Hamel gets the name variable as it is. So this is main.rb. And this is name.hamel. And so what basically we are doing here is, we know that we can access the name variable, the name value under params symbol name. And we assign it to this variable called name. And we prefix this variable's name with an @ sign. And what this does basically is it gives Hamel access to it as well. You can go read up about like the pedantic meaning behind it, but like basically all that it means is that it gives Hamel access. And then we
the not name and the at name is different, right? Totally different.
this.
Yeah, I mean the one, the yellow one. Yeah, that name and the at name is different. Actually, you can name the other one name 2 or something.
So like this symbol it's not a variable name. So I actually, yeah, to not confuse you, I can name it something else. It totally doesn't matter. And inside here I can name this. Yeah, but really it is important to know, like, it should be clear to you that this is different from this, because this is basically telling Sinatra, hey, the URL that's coming to you is going to look like this. It's going to have name / something, and I want you to give me that something here under params :name. And basically the variable here has no it's inconsequential what you name it, because it's just different. And then the @ sign basically says, hey, Hamel needs access to this variable too. And finally, in the last call, as we've seen earlier, Hamel : name basically refers to name.hamel, the file, and it renders that. Alright. And so I'm going to stop here, partly because I think this part, there's kind of a lot to digest. And if you look back to the first picture I showed you, you can see how routes handles everything right now, right? Like if we had some information that we took from somewhere, which we'll see later, we can pass it to Hamel. And in this way, the routes can control everything, basically. Yeah, and so that concludes our part 2. We haven't really started writing our blog. We will after this. And yeah, we'll do it after the break. We'll take a 5 to 10 minutes break right now.